This week on the latest episode of The Big Show is one of my favorite times of the year. Charles Kirkland will vouch because every year when we sit down and talk about this show, I'm like, we did that already? Oh, let's do this. Okay, cool. It's Halloween weekend, and we're going to take a look at some of the best Black horror movie classics for the next 60 minutes. From Tales from the Hood, Candyman, to modern classics such as Get Out. We'll discuss all the movies you should see that will send a chill down your spine leading up to Fright Night. Hey, man, I do the best I can. We'll have all that and more on episode 477, Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. Let's go. All right, and welcome to the latest episode of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. I am Tim Gordon. I am joined by the man that we call Pastor Chuck. Chuck Chill Out, Charles in Charge. It is none other than Charles Kirkland Jr. Charles, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well today. This is a beautiful day. I'm here with you.
Yeah, Wilson Morales, who normally joins us, has been junketing like a maniac, man. So, and Charles, you got a junket coming up this weekend as well. So, you understand the junket spirit.
Yeah, the junket business is heavy now, I guess is the word I want to use, because it's that time of year. It's just that time of year.
Yeah. All right, man. But for the next hour, man, we're going to talk about a genre that I have a love-hate relationship with. I'm not a huge fan of quote unquote the modern horror movie. I like my movies that are more suspenseful and minus a lot of the blood. But I like them to be very, very scary and to give you something to think about. And I think some of the movies that we're going to discuss today kind of fit into that. Charles, I can't speak for him. Charles, you're more of a horror guy than I am. So what it is about this genre that resonates with you?
To me, it's like being on a roller coaster. You kind of you know that you're going for a ride, and it's going to be exciting and terrifying at times. So that's the fun part about it. Is just the thrill. It's the thrill.
Just the thrill. All right, man. So without any further ado.
Wait. Before we do, I just want to say, I just read a wonderful article from the Hollywood Reporter on our boy Garrett Morris, one of the original not for prime time players. And it's a beautiful article, and it kind of goes down that same avenue that we've been going down for the last couple of weeks about our boy Dave Chappelle. So if you get a chance to check it out on the Hollywood Reporter. I put a link to it on the DC Film Life site. So, but it's a really good article.
Okay, so before we get started, so what made this article so good? What was in it that really stuck out to you?
Well, it reflected on how Garrett got started in the business, and especially how he got to Saturday Night Live, and then just some of the people he worked with there on the show, from Lorne Michaels to some of the writers to Belushi, and then he gives his impression on who's the best comedian out there of all time. And I think that you would enjoy some of what he has to say, and it would go along. I think some of the words that he speaks are some of the words that you have spoken as well.
Oh, so I am following in the footsteps of Garrett Morris, it sounds like. This comedy thing, man, again, it's all subjective. I am very interested because I saw the article. I didn't get a chance to read it. But Garrett Morris is much respected, first Black primetime. I'm not just the first, the only one of the original cast. So, of Gilda Radner, Belushi, Murray, Chase. Who am I leaving out? Aykroyd. It was Newman, Lorraine Newman, and I think that's it. I got everybody, right?
I think you got everybody. I think you got them all.
Belushi, Aykroyd, Morris, Chase, Murray, the two ladies, Radner and Newman. Yeah, think I got all. It's like 7 of them. So yeah, so
they hired Garrett as a writer, and the writing thing didn't work out for him. And then then Belushi saw him in Car Wash, and went up to Lauren and said, "Hey man, we got the guy in the wrong spot. We need to put him in. We need to put him as a player." And
so that's how he got on, huh?
That's how he got in.
Yeah, man. Garrett Morris was funny, man. I mean, yeah, I remember some of his signature bits from back in the day. So I will definitely check that out. That's your recommendation. So anything else that's hot that we want to talk about before we delve into show?
Let's get to the horror. It's time to get scary.
All right, man. So it's Fright. I hate to say Fright Night weekend. That kind of sounds dumb because Halloween is on Sunday. So here we are earlier than Sunday doing today's show. And I want to lead off with, and again, we're not going to do these movies in any order. I'm going to throw a movie out there, Charles. I'm going to have you throw one out. Sometimes, you may throw a movie out that I want to talk about later on, and we'll just expound on it. So make sure that we get as many movies in this episode as possible. But I want to lead off with what I think is one of the most important films in this genre that featured a Black actor. And you know exactly where I'm going with this, Charles, that he's the Black actor who literally survives at a time when these characters did not. People of color were rubbed out really early in a lot of these movies, man. But this brother here stuck around to damn near he stuck through the entire film. And it is the classic from 1968, Night of the Living Dead, directed by George A. Romero. Dwayne Jones was the lead in this film. Now, again, not a lot of blood in this film, done in black and white. But for the time that it came out, this was an extremely scary movie to a lot of people. And then, of course, the franchise, it launched the franchise for George A. Romero, that he was making these movies as recent as like 20 years ago. That there was still, have there been any other movies in this franchise after like the 2004, I think it was Day of the Dead or whatever it was? Because it's like they've made so many of them over the years.
I mean, zombies are everywhere. So, I mean, if you're talking about just of the dead thing, I mean, you got Army of the Dead that came out on Netflix. I don't think it's really part of the George Romero series, but I mean, it uses the Of the Dead title, of the Dead words in its title. So, I mean, it's could qualify, I guess, if you want to say.
All right, so that's good. So let's talk about Dwayne. What's the brother's name, man? I just finished saying it a couple of seconds ago. Dwayne Jones. Let's talk about him, man. This role that he plays, man, of course, if you haven't seen the film, and I hate to say this, and Charles, because people are talking about, give me a spoiler-free review. This movie came out in 1968. If you haven't watched Dawn, the Night of the Living Dead now, it's been out for 73
years. 53 years.
No. Hold on a second. Are we right? Is it 53?
I was born in 68.
All right, my apologies, man. My math is off sometimes. I'm a podcast host, man. Like, what do you want from me? 53 years. So I don't think it's too much to spoil the movie if you've never watched it, but literally it is, there's some sort of, I don't know. Did they ever explain it, Charles? Is it a virus or something happens, a mutation?
Nope,
something happens.
But
they never explained it. And all of a sudden there are now this is like literally
up out the graves.
Yeah, so this is literally first generation like zombie, right? So these zombies aren't really mobile. They don't run. It's just if you can outrun them, you can probably survive, right? You actually the zombies in this film, this is probably your best opportunity to live if you can just get into some open space and run, because they never gonna catch you, right? So these are not like the new 4.0 zombies that have been upgraded that now attack. They run after. Nah. This is real standard stuff in 1968. And I remember watching this film when I was young, and it scared the bejesus out of me. But I did notice, I was like, man, that brother is wearing some zombies out. And so again, I'm saying it laughing, but there is something really historic about this film because this was made during a time when representation, we weren't as represented as we are today. And here's this guy, man, who is, he's not a black guy, he's not a white guy, he's a guy that's alive, that's trying to survive, leading other survivors. And he got the job done, man. I mean, you have to watch the end of the movie, but he did his thing for almost the entire movie. And I'll leave it at that. Charles, what do you have on Night of the Living Dead, 1968?
Well, I think Night of the Living Dead encapsulates the trope that usually goes around about Black people in horror films. We don't usually aren't in horror films and haven't been in horror films because we're way too smart to be caught. So we don't do the stupid stuff that some other people do. So, I think that kind of exemplified it in Night of the Living Dead, why Dwayne Jones's character can last so long, because he's a brother and he ain't going for no stupid stuff. So, I think it's a great testament, a great movie, very scary. I enjoy it. It's probably one of the top 10 of all time for me as far as Black. And when we say Black, it's only because there's a Black star in it. It's not totally a Black film because he's interacting with other people, but it's a great film. I don't. 1968, I don't know who hasn't seen this film, but I mean, if you're a horror fanatic, you've seen it.
All right, so before we close with this film, let me just give you some numbers, right, to really understand the significance of this film. Film was released on October 1st, 1968. It grossed $12 million domestically, $18 million internationally. It earned more than, wait for it, Charles, 250 times its budget, making it one of the most profitable film productions ever made at the time. All right. This film, man, launched 5 official sequels between 1978 and 2009, all of them directed by George A. Romero. The film has also inspired several remakes as a result of its public domain status. An official remake, written by Romero and directed by Tom Savini, was released in 1990 and has similarly gained a small cult following. Night of the Living Dead is an absolute classic. And I would say, if for no other reason, you should watch this movie because it's a very important movie to the culture. It really is. All right, Charles. So what do you have?
Now, I'm going to go with a film that is much more recent than Night of the Living Dead, although I'm sure many people have not seen it. Matter of fact, it just came out last year.
Really? I mean, we talking about Black horror classic. You going with a movie from last year as your first movie?
Yeah, because it's a classic. And I like to think that if people haven't seen it, then I need to let them know what it is so that they can go and see it.
Gotcha.
So there's a film that came out last year called His House.
Oh, and that was a good one. That's a good, okay, go ahead and I'll have my part on the back end. Go ahead, tell your His House story.
All right, there's this refugee couple who's escaping the South Sudan. They've come to a new land, and now all of a sudden they seem to be accompanied with something as they're trying to find this new life for themselves in this new land. And this, I mean, this thing it's top 5 for me now because it just released last year. The performances are incredible. I can't think of I'm blanking on the name of the actors.
I'll give you the name of the actor. The actor's name is
Mosaku.
The sister from Lovecraft Country.
Yes.
Wunmi Mosaku.
Mm-hmm.
Soapy I apologize if I'm butchering these names. Soapy Dirisu and Matt Smith star in this movie.
And a lot of people who know Matt Smith, who's Doctor Who, done a lot of things. So a great movie, absolutely horrifying. And as they come into this English town and they bring, oh man, it's a very good film. I mean, an hour and 33 minutes long, but packed from almost the first act all the way to the end. It's just an incredible film.
You know, okay, so two things that I have about this film. And the reason I laughed is because this is one of the few films that I wasn't able to finish this movie, man. When you get to that mid scene and he's in that house by himself, and I think I forget how it went, Charles, because you could probably help me with this. He either reaches into the wall, behind the wall for something, and when he comes out, the lights flicker. And when the lights flicker and he's in the dark and there's like all these spirits, that it freaked me out. I was like, I'm done. It's a wrap. I'm not watching it. This is really well done. You know, just because you brought this up, I may try to watch it because there have been a lot of these Blumhouse movies that are these kind of comedy, tongue-in-cheek sort of movies, right. You know, that I've been watching recently. His House ain't nothing funny about that. It's funny because I was watching, as an aside, I was watching episode 10 of Wu-Tang, the American Saga, the Wu-Tang Clan American Saga. And one of the songs that they led off when this thing they recreated was Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to F with.
Yeah.
His House is nothing to F with if you don't like scary movies. I tapped out. I'm keeping it real. I was like, nah, I'm good. Oh, that's a good one. That was a good one. So I can't really be mad at you for that one, Charles. But yeah, that's a film from last year. It debuted at Netflix. Wunmi Musaku. I've got to talk to her too, because between this film you did and the stuff they were doing on Lovecraft Country, whew, she's got a constitution for some horror. because the horror, and it's funny, this leads into one that we're not talking about a Black movie classic that's a horror classic, but we do need to bring up Lovecraft Country, because Lovecraft Country, man, my God, man, 10-episode arc where Misha Green, showrunner and creator of that show, mixes in mythology. She mixes in Africa, you know, kind of like our heritage and lineage in there with the story of this family, right, that share this blood. And of course, if you've watched the series, you know, you've got at the beginning, you see that Atticus, played by Jonathan Majors, is brought to this manor, right, because they're doing this blood ceremony. And he's so powerful that, you know, he wipes out everybody that's there. And in the process, his uncle George, played by Black Reel Award for TV Best Supporting winner Courtney B. Vance, you know, loses his life there. And then the story with him and Letty, oh my God, man, that was so well done, mixing in some fantasy elements with some things that happen in real life, including the Emmett Till piece. Oh my God. And Charles, last line in the thing, which killed me, is when the woman is laying there, I guess she's his half cousin, or
right. Yeah.
His half cousin sitting there. She goes, "He took all," and Letty goes, "Oh, we have all the magic." How did she say it? I forget the line. It was so cold. It was like,
we have all the magic now, or something like, I can't remember.
Like as in essence to say, Black folks got all the magic now. I was like, Lovecraft Country is brilliant, and some of those episodes are super scary. They did the kind of Raiders of the Lost Ark episode. Remember when they're under the house, and oh my God, man, that one was great.
You have science fiction in there. Aliens and Afrofuturism. I Am Hippolyta. What an episode that was!
Wow, yes, that was episode 7.
That was Wunmi's Yeah.
Yeah. What about no? That was Aunjanue Ellis.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're right.
Hippolyta.
You're right.
But what about episode 6 when Tick is in was it Vietnam or wherever he was fighting, and he meets the woman who is got the tentacles that is capturing souls, and or for episode 5, which I think is either 4 or 5, when Woomy takes the potion and transforms into a white woman. And
yeah,
I love me some Lovecraft. I've watched Lovecraft Country from start to finish 3 times. I love that show. And then let's not forget, before we get out of here, episode 9, which is where they go back to Tulsa. And you got that great shot of Letty walking with the book of names, walking through the streets of Tulsa with the fire
all around. Yeah.
Look,
yeah.
Love Lovecraft Country. That would be a series to watch this weekend. So that is a recommendation. Wasn't even going to do that, but do that episode. But I wanted to talk about that because of what you brought up, Charles. So that would be mine. What do you have up next, Charles?
Oh, that was sneaky. How you just did that. You threw in Lovecraft Country as your recommendation.
Well, I mean, I could go with another one, but since I just was passionate about something that I really, really loved, I thought it would be unfair for me to go and take an additional one. There's enough stuff to go around. And then I see the pattern right now is that I'm always old school, right? So you saw me start off with Night of the Living Dead in 1968. Charles goes to something 2020. That's how we roll. So what's next for you? You gonna do Get Out because Get Out came out in 2018 or something?
No, I'm not gonna do neither Get Out or Us because those are popular things. I'm trying to educate. So I want to talk about it. Is a 2000 movie. It came out in 2011. So that's like what
a decade ago.
10 years ago. 10 years ago. And it gave us the great John Boyega. It's our first look at him. It's a wonderful film from Joe Cornish called Attack the Block.
Woo! That's another good one. That's a good one.
Where John Boyega and his buddies have to defend his neighborhood from extraterrestrials who come down to take over the place. And this all English. Jodie Whittaker, Alex Esmail, a wonderful cast, and scary. One of those little films that you gotta see just to see how Boyega has developed from there to here is cool to see. It's a great flick. Great flick.
You know what's interesting about this film? I remember watching it initially, right, when I didn't know what it was, and I was like, man, this is like an English or British Boys in the Hood with aliens. So it's like, imagine being around the way and all of a sudden these aliens come down and these brothers from the hood are fighting the aliens. And it was so well done. And you're absolutely right, because that literally was John Boyega. I don't know if it was his first film, but it was like one of the earliest things he'd ever done. And he was fantastic in it. He got a lot of work. His career got a lot of boost from that first film that he did. But it was so interesting about the aliens and how they made them look and, what they were doing. It was really well done. So it would be like, you could remake that in America. That would be like Southeast DC, Attack the Block. Ward 8. They should call it Ward
8. Brothers don't play. Brothers don't play.
And the brothers didn't play in that one either. So we traditionally as a people, I think, fare pretty well in horror movies because there's a certain sense of what we're not gonna, like I watch these movies and I'm not gonna, not gonna call out any titles, but there's nothing that when I remember being a kid in the theater. And like, maybe it was watching like Night of the Living Dead. And like I told you, these things are slow. They're like moving at like 1 mile an hour. And like, inevitably, Charles, am I wrong? There would inevitably be some woman, normally white, and I apologize if you're a white woman watching the show, but it's true. If you don't believe me, look, that always falls down and for some reason just can't get up. It will sit there and scream, ah! And I'm like, we were in the theater, like, get up. Run!
Run!
So now, Menno, if you're watching, I'm not picking on non-Black people today. I'm just saying that in horror movies that there's always these tropes and things that happen that I just don't understand, right? So, in Night of the Living Dead,
when it comes down to turf toe versus your life, I'm sorry, I'm getting up and running some more.
Did he say
That's all it is.
Oh, man. Oh, yes, but I'm sorry, that was good. You caught me off guard there. But yes, that was Attack the Block was really, really a good movie. So, all right, you're going to Attack the Block, huh? All right, I'm gonna raise you with another classic, man. Because again, these movies stick out in my mind, Charles, because I was very young and impressionable, and these movies scared the bejesus out of me. There was this thing that we used to do, and a good friend of mine, producer Warrington Hutland, always gets mad when he'll say stuff like, we talk about Oscar Micheaux, and he'll say, well, Oscar Micheaux was just making these white movies and putting Black people in them, right? And I was like, well, he had to do what he had to do. But right. I guess this opportunity comes up 50 years later. And I guess, man, at some point, somebody had to do it, right? We've been watching Dracula movies for years, right? So somebody was like, well, if he's Black, make it Blackula. Blackula from 19... Am I wrong, Charles? Like at some point, somebody's going to go, Blackula. Blackula from 1972 tells the story of an African prince who travels to Transylvania where he is bitten by, wait for it, Dracula, and sealed in a coffin for 100 years only to awaken in 1970s LA. Again, I didn't come up with the premise. I'm just telling you what it is. Blackula also featured the young and beautiful Lynette McKee.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Let me take that back to make sure, because this was always confusing. It wasn't Lynette McKee. She starred in Sparkle. It was Vanetta. I'm sorry. That always used to bother me that they had these names that were so close to one another. But Blackula, if you haven't seen it, is it a little campy and aged, dated now? Yeah. Compared to the movies that we have to watch, yeah. But is it a movie you should watch? Non-African American critics, and I'm saying that looking into the camera because I have so many people that go, well, I don't know what Shaft is. Dude, Black people are not a niche. We're not genre, right? Watch these films. If you're going to watch I Spit on Your Grave, you can watch Blackula. If you're watching Aliens, you can watch Abby. It is not, you don't have to do one or the other. We do all the movies, right? So all of the stuff you guys are watching, we watching too. We're watching all of the stuff we're making. But Blackula, as I said, is a classic film. Charles, have you ever seen it?
I have. It's also starred the wonderful Denise Nichols. It stars the wonderful Denise Nichols, and it also stars a very trained actor in William Marshall, who starred as Blackula, Vanetta McGee. All right, I just wanted to look that up because I just didn't want to mess her name up because those two. But Prince, his name was Prince Mamuwalde. So in other words, we take your count and we up it with a prince.
We up it with a prince. We was sent by the elders of the Nigerian Abani African nation to seek the help of Count Dracula in suppressing the slave trade. So I see what you did there, right? You took a horror movie, you tried to put like a political, cultural spin on it. Dracula instead laughs at the request, insults Mamuwalde by making open overtures by enslaving his wife, played by Vanetta McKee. And after a scuffle, Mamuwalde is bitten by Dracula and transformed into a vampire. Dracula then curses him with the name Blackula, which is just a little rude, right? I mean, just because I'm African, why I gotta be Blackula? Why you can't give me? All right, and but I essentially say this was the plot of this movie, screenplay from a group of people who have gone on to not make anything that I know of, produced by Samuel Arscoff. Blackula, as I said, is a smidge dated. It's almost 50 years old now. But I think as a historical document, it is a movie that bears watching. And Charles wasn't going to bring it up, so one of us had to do it. Charles, you up next, man. What do you got?
Well, I've given you opportunity after opportunity to name this film, to put this on your side of the table. But since you haven't, I'm going to talk about this movie that I saw back in the 90s, where a very accomplished actor named Clarence William III played a mortician, telling stories to scare Joe Torre and his buddies. And I'm talking about the classic. The
Three
classic.
gangbangers.
They're gangbanger friends. The classic movie Tales from the Hood. Tales from the Hood. At the time, we had Tales from the Crypt that came around that same time, but this was us doing our own thing. Tales from the Hood. I mean, an anthology of stories, like I said, told by Clarence Williams III's Mr. Sims, as he was called, a mortician who had a penchant for telling a good tale. And oh man, this movie is just it's ridiculously, at times hilarious, but scary too. I just love that film.
All right, so Charles is like burying the lead, right? So of course, 20 years earlier, there was an ABC movie of the week, and I remember it because I think my parents sort of let me watch it, because this is back during the time, Charles, when we were young, and they would say, parental, this movie's got blah blah blah, and my parents would go, you got to go to bed, you can't watch this. That was
parental guidance suggested.
Correct. But I forget what this thing, I want to say it was called Trilogy of Terror with Karen Black. Remember, with the little African doll?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically what Rusty Cundiff and forget the other brother that was his producing partner when they made Tales from the
Aaron Scott.
Yeah. Man, let me tell you something, man. They had 3 stories in this. And, you had the one story of the racist cop who, I guess had been doing some bad stuff to Black people. And I remember he got the hypodermic needles stuck to him. You had, I'm trying to remember the stories, but because there's one particular one that stood out with David Allen Greer playing an abusive father, I guess stepfather, to this little young boy who he was terrifying, who, oh my God, man, that story stuck out, as well as the ending, the third act of Tales from the Hood, which is just cold-blooded, man. It's an amazing accomplishment. I will definitely watch Tales from the Hood this weekend, because every Halloween, that's one you gotta watch among all the old ones. So
yes,
I got you on that one, Charles. All right, so that was a good one. So I'll take your Tales from the Crypt, and Tales from the Hood, and I will raise you. God, it went away that quick. Ganja and Hess from 1973. What you know about Ganja and Hess, Charles?
I've never actually seen it. I've heard of it.
I know you haven't, man. I know Charles Kirkland, man. See, that's why I know that you talking about Mr. I'm here to educate. I'm like, nah, bro, I'm here to educate, because I'm gonna give you one. Ganja and Hess. Spike Lee actually did a remake of this film several years ago. And I'm trying to remember, what was the title of the Spike Lee one? You got to look that up, Charles. Spike Lee one, because I'm going to talk about Ganja and Hess. Ganja and Hess was a film which, for some odd reason, people are now trying to tell us that they can't find any information on Ganja and Hess. Like, really? Are we? This is what we're doing right now? So you're telling us, first of all, you don't want to watch our movies, and then you don't have any information on them? Come on, man. All right, so Ganja and Hess was released in 1973. It was an experimental horror film written and directed by Bill Gunn. It starred Marianne Clark and from Night of the Living Dead, Dwayne Jones, right?
Right.
And it told the story of Jones, who becomes a vampire after his intelligent but unstable assistant, played by Gunn, stabs him with an ancient cursed dagger. Green falls in love with the assistant's widow, played by Clark, who learns Green's dark secret. Now, it was remade in 2014 as, I love this title, The Sweet Blood of Jesus. That's all. Every time I said it when it was out, that's how I would say it. Because if you say it any other way, it doesn't even sound right. Like, can I have 2 for the sweet blood of Jesus, please? But if you say, give me a pair for the sweet blood of Jesus, and they go, sure, here you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, this film, man, is another one. And again, Charles, to your point, which I agree with, that I think we do need to talk about some titles that aren't the obvious ones, right? And Ganja and Hess is one that's not obvious, right? Now, no disrespect to Spike Lee and the Sweet Blood of Jesus, but I think this is superior to that. And I think it's not necessarily your typical horror film, but much like what we talked about with Blackula, where you had sort of a cultural sort of a tie-in to the film, this film has a cultural tie-in too, because he doesn't become a vampire in the traditional sense that he's been bitten, but he's been stabbed by something that kind of infects him. And right. I think it's a really good story, man. That's scary. And again, if you are looking for films that may not be these bloody films that are going to scare the bejesus out of you, but are going to have some sort of a historical, cultural aspect to them, this is one I would highly recommend. You got anything else on that, Charles, before you move on to your next film?
I just want to say I did see the sweet blood of Jesus.
Sweet blood.
And I knew that it was based on Ganja and Hess, but I never got around to seeing the original version. So I'll just go with you on that one and say, yeah, it was good. Okay, that's good. Good pick.
All right, so what do you got next, Charles?
Wow.
See, I'm locked and loaded, man. Look.
Because again, I want to kind of stay away from the obvious ones. Now I can't think of the movie because it just went out of my brain. What's the one? The People Under the Stairs?
People Under the Stairs from
Under the Stairs.
Yeah, man, that was a good one. That was a good one.
But I can't. I lost my notes on the People Under the Stairs.
Well, you know what? That's what I'm here for, man. Because we're in the pick you up business.
Because so I do remember that it's a Wes Craven film. Everyone remembers Wes Craven, but this is.
Wait a minute, Charles. We're not gonna put you out there like that. People Under the Stairs was a film. Hold on a second, man. You didn't want that because I had the band People Under the Stairs. You didn't want to talk about the band. Hold on a second. People Under the Stairs was a 1991 horror classic comedy film written and directed by Wes Craven. The plot follows a young boy and 2 adult robbers who become trapped in a house belonging to a strange couple after breaking in to steal their collection of rare coins. Or, as we say where I grew up, that's what you get. Go ahead, Charles.
So yeah, they break into this house and they find there's a girl that's living under the stairs, and they're trying to not only survive this couple but get her out of there as well. And so it's 2 young actors, Brandon Adams and AJ Langer, who play the boy and the girl. The boy's name was Fool. Now, I thought it's probably a slang name that he had in the ghetto there where he lived, but he was truly a fool for going up into people's houses. And like you said, that's what you get. You go up in somebody's house trying to steal, and then you find out they got something for you. It's just like that. What was that movie about the blind guy, and they go in to rob him, and he whoops their ever loving.
One more time. That's what you get.
So Like you said, it's very scary, but it's also tongue in cheek, hilarious because the whole time you're just sitting there saying, that's what you get. You deserve that going in the house. You don't know what you're doing going in there robbing people.
So is this a movie you would recommend somebody check out this weekend?
Yes, very much so. I mean, like I said, it's Wes Craven. It's not the stuff that he normally does, but I do like this kind of twist in the scary genre that he does with this film.
All right, man. All right, so People Under the Stairs. I got to save my That's What You Get because I have to save those when they really are needed. Now, this next film we're going to talk about, I'm just going to read the description, and Charles's face is going to light up because you know exactly what this film is. In this film, a Chicago grad student completes a thesis on urban legends and folklore, which leads her to the legend of, and you got to count how many times you say this because we can't say it 5 times, leads her to the legend of Candyman. The ghost of an artist and son of a slave was murdered in the late 19th century for his relationship with the daughter of a wealthy white man. Tony Todd became an underground cult legend as the star with a hook hand who comes for little boys on Halloween. They literally just made a remake. Jordan Peele was behind it along with Nia DaCosta. Really strong movie, good film. Both of them work. The first one works well. The second one works well. That film, which we will not go into name, is a really good one. Now, I will also say, Charles, I never saw the original 1992 one, but I saw the 2021 one several times. Matter of fact, it made me jump out of my bed when I was watching it. The last line when he said, "Tell everyone." I will. Go ahead, Charles. What do you think about Candyman?
Now you're obviously talking about the one that just came out this year because you said you didn't see the original.
Yeah.
So you're trumping me on not doing an old film and more recent film than even the ones that I've done. But I'll agree with you. This one that Nia DaCosta does is excellent and horrifying. Man, just blood curdling scary. So Yahya Abdul-Mateen plays the guy who goes where he shouldn't go. And so I'm not going to say the name. No.
He's still like, no.
But great film. Excellent choice, Tim. Excellent choice.
All right, so what do you got, man? We going through our horror stuff here, man. We having fun.
All right, so I was gonna say this. Is this my last pick?
This ain't your last pick, man. We got 15 minutes to go. We going as many as we can go. So I'm
gonna go ahead and go ahead and another more recent film came out in 2019, and this Oscar-winning actress. She did win an Oscar, didn't she? Yeah, plays a lonely middle-aged woman who befriends some teenagers and decides to let them have a party in her basement. And then after that, it just spirals out of control when it seems like she knows the family that these teenagers come from, and there's some revenge aspects going on. And I'm talking about a movie that's called simply Ma.
Yeah. Never saw that one either.
Spencer. You never saw that?
No.
Oh my goodness!
I was not watching a crazy Octavia Spencer. I've met Octavia Spencer. She is very nice. I did not want to see her in a characterization like that. That would scare me. Because maybe I'd run into her again. I'd be like,
I love the fact that Octavia Spencer shows a range here that she hadn't shown before, and being kind of reminiscent of the woman in Misery. When I mean, she just seems so innocuously sweet and kind, and then all of a sudden you do the wrong things and you got to suffer. You're going to suffer now. You didn't play by the rules. I got you. Great film. Just like I said, 2019. Oh, love it, and definitely see this one over the weekend.
You see my face, man. I got one for you. Look, I got one for you.
All right. I can't believe you hadn't seen Ma. That was just
I haven't
2
seen
years
Ma.
ago.
I haven't seen Ma. All right, 20 years ago, I was at some film festival. I don't know which one it was, but this movie played at this film festival. Right? You see my face? I'm setting it up.
When did you say?
20 years ago. 20 years ago, I was at some film festival. It might have been ABFF. It was someplace, but this movie played. And it was directed by Eric LaSalle. This film was a thought-provoking cat and mouse game that pits a cocky psychiatrist played by Michael Beach against a mysterious mental patient played by LaSalle who claims to be Satan. The two spar back and forth until the doctor begins to believe that maybe, just maybe, the guy is who he claims to be or not. Charles, crazy as hell, to me is still a superiorly scary movie because of the twist, that the M. Night Shyamalan twist that happens in the third act of this movie. I'm trying to remember the famous line that the woman, there's an old woman that's in the story that says something along the lines of, God, I can't remember what the line is, but it was scary. Crazy as hell. If you can find it, you should watch. Charles, I can tell you haven't seen Crazy as Hell. My point exactly. I knew you wouldn't.
That's the name of the film, Crazy as Hell.
It's called Crazy as Hell. It's about, like I said, a psychiatrist working in a mental ward that meets this guy named Satan, played by Eric LaSalle. And God, what is the line, man? I'm trying to remember the line that she gave him. Yeah, I can't remember what it is, man, but it was, wait a minute, hold on a second. Who are you? He says he's a good man. Then why are you here? He keeps protesting that he's a good man until the screen fades to black. You gotta watch Crazy as Hell, man. I think you would get an appreciation for that film, man. So that's why when you started by saying you wanted to educate, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna educate. I'll talk about some movies that people know about, and then there's some other ones that I've seen that have really put the shiver in me. Like for an example, and I know we're still talking about Black classics, but to this day, when I watch He's Alive, the Twilight Zone episode where Hitler, comes out of the shadows, that one scares me. And then the other one, the Howling, man, really scares the bejesus out of me, about the guy who caught Satan and then Satan got away and then he spends his life trying to catch him again. Did you ever see that one?
No. What's it called? The Howling Man?
It's called The Howling Man. It's a classic Twilight Zone episode. It starts off with a guy in flashback who has caught Satan and he's got him behind a door, and there's a little wooden staff that can hold him because he can't get past the staff. Don't ask me why. And he literally is recounting the first time he caught him, didn't recognize who he was, and let him get away, and then he caught him again. So, very, very scary from a standpoint, until you really think about it from a spiritual standpoint, that you know where I'm going with this, Charles, where we put too much energy into the fear, when if you are a believer, then the fear, you're fine. You don't really have to worry about that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You a lot of people spend time in the fear aspect, so that's a very fearful sort of a story when you watch it, and the catching and trying to hold on to sort of a situation. But I equate a lot of that with Crazy as Hell, because Crazy as Hell has that kind of subtext to it that is a really fearful story, because you really don't know. This guy's unhinged. Is he who he says he is? Is he, Charles? So go ahead, man. You got one more movie, man. I'm still going through my piles, digging for stuff that I think you may not have seen.
All right, so I'm not going to go back as far as you, because I remember this film. I got a screener for this film when it first came out just a couple years ago, and I was like, this is one of those things, you know, you get a lot of independent things come to you, and you're like, I don't know if I want to watch this or not. And so I popped this film in. It came from Jason Blumhouse group. So I was like, I don't know if I want to watch it, but you know, Blumhouse is usually pretty good about their horror. And so I popped this thing in, and there's this girl. She goes on a plane, and she's on a boat, and the boat crashes, and she survives, and she finds herself on this uninhabited island, all alone. She's lost, and she's wondering how she's going to survive. And then all of a sudden, I mean, all the horror of just being lost on an island and trying to find your way around. All of a sudden now she's got to contend with this monster that comes up out of the water.
I've seen this movie. Yeah, I've seen this one. Kersey Clemens.
So, yeah. It's called Sweetheart. And I mean, it's a very pulpy, very low budget film, but I mean the shock value, the horror value, the creepy value is up there, very up there, and it's just something that I don't know what it is about Jason Blum, how demented his mind is, but I mean, he's got your jump scares in there, he's got your suspense, your horror. I mean, this film is packed, and if you haven't seen Sweetheart. It just sounds so innocuous. I was like, what kind of film is this? But it is terrifying. It is terrifying.
All right, I got one more for Charles before we get out of here. I can't slip by. And all these films, I have these personal stories, right? So I remember being a fairly young man in his 20s. And, you know, I was out there doing my thing, you know, so I don't even have to really go into that. You know, I was Tim Gordon.
Please don't.
I love the ladies. And around the time when I was out there doing my thing, this movie came out about this guy or this woman who would sit at bars, and guys would come and pick her up, take her home, only to get a whole lot more than they bargained for. In a 1990 film called Death by Temptation.
Death by Temptation.
Now, this movie not only was scary as a film, but it was scary as a concept, because remember, we're not that far removed, which I think the horror aspect in it is almost kind of like synonymous with HIV and AIDS, right? So if you were out there having unprotected sex, you could have death by temptation. You could go out there and be involved with somebody, but the movie takes it another step further, that this woman was going home on one night affairs, or one night, you know, these one night kind of trysts, and she was a demon and would devour these people. And I remember this story was written, directed, and produced and starred James Bond III, which I don't think he did anything else other than this. He might have been appeared in some stuff, but this is probably his major calling card. Kadeem Hardison, who was on the Cosby Show. I'm sorry, A Different World. My apologies. On A Different World.
He was both. He was on Cosby too. So I mean,
yeah, took some time off and shot this film. Bill Nunn, who had just done the year prior, Do the Right Thing, was in this film. A very young, before he took off and blew up, Samuel L. Jackson has a small role in this movie. And, you know, John Canada Terrell, remember that name from She's Gotta Have It. So he had, for the time, there was some smaller names, but there was some people that people recognized that were in this film. And wow, a story of a guy who was a PK, a preacher's kid, who was going to New York, you know, not necessarily to sow his wild oats, but he was going to New York to spend some time, and was getting tempted by the temptress, as they called her, who was taking people down, man. Death by Temptation is a movie I don't think you can find in too many places. I haven't seen it anywhere in years. I remember having a copy of it, Charles, on either VHS or maybe I know I didn't have it on DVD or Blu-ray. I know I've never seen it on that. But if you can find Death by Temptation, it's a really, really, and again, maybe it's a little dated now, but if you look at it in the context of the time period that it was created, not the highest budget, not the greatest written script, but it has some elements that I think really, really work well, even in 2021, man.
It's funny because the movie is Def, D-E-F, by Temptation, not Death.
Like Def Jam, Def, yeah. That was the other part. Yeah.
So when I saw Promising Young Woman, when I watched that film, I jumped up and my son looked at me because I was screener copy again. I jumped up and I said, "This is Death by Temptation." He's like, "What are you talking about?" And so I was like, "This movie is Death by Temptation." And he's like, "I don't understand." Okay, so in Promising Young Woman, she doesn't turn out to be a succubus like Cynthia Bond's character was in Death by Temptation. But great movie, entertaining movie. I'll say this. I'm not going to say it's a great movie, but it had its moments, and I think you put it well in the context of the time that it came out. It had a different meaning. A different subtext that could be taken into account as in that story. So yeah, good movie.
Well, it's really funny. You talked about your son telling him that this was Death by Temptation. I remember being at a screening years ago to watch what was the story? What was it called? Story about two white guys and a girl. They were selling drugs. And one of them wanted to get out, the other one wanted to stay in. And I was like, man, this ain't nothing but Shaft. And it was like, I was like, that's Shaft. Watch this. I'll take it one step further. There's a movie coming out this weekend about Last Night in Soho, right?
Yeah.
You've seen it, right?
No.
Okay. Last Night in Soho is JD's Revenge. It's literally like when I saw it, I was sitting there, I went, wait a second. Okay. Possessed by somebody. Yeah, I've seen this movie already. It's called JD's Revenge. So now this could be a show one day we can do about, name that, instead of saying name that tune, name that film. I'm gonna give you a synopsis of the story, and then you just tell me, because again, as I used to teach people, there are literally 6 to 12 stories that are the basis of every film. And when I say stories, I'm talking about like concepts. I read and studied one time is Man versus Man. So, a film where men are against another man, or you are fighting yourself. Man versus woman, man versus animal, man versus machine. These are the backbone foundations of every story. And if you look at enough movies, or if you watch enough of them over time, you will start to see the similarities and be like, oh, that's such and such, or such and such and such. So for an example, quickly, because we got a couple of minutes left, when I watch Westerns, right? Because I just rewatched The Harder They Fall again last night, Charles. And two of my favorite Westerns came out within 6 months of each other, right? Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in the West, which for my money is just amazing. And The Wild Bunch from 1969, Bill Holden, Ernest Borgnine, Robert Ryan, a couple of other people, man, just amazing Westerns, right? And when you watch Once Upon a Time in the West, George Lucas even admitted that when he made Star Wars, taking some stuff from Dune, he took some stuff, like the introduction of all of the characters. If you ever watch Star Wars, every time Darth Vader walks in the room, he walks in with his theme music, or you hear this thing. He got that from Once Upon a Time in the West, because they had 4 characters and they had 4 different scores. So every time one of those characters showed up on screen, you would hear, like, if it was Jason Robards, you hear dun, 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 dun. Like, oh, okay, Jason Robards is coming, and then the music was here. So I'm telling you that the influx of film. We watched at Middleburg. What was the film? Told from 3 perspectives. Oh no, it wasn't Middleburg. The Last Duel. They came out a couple of
Oh
weeks ago.
yeah.
The Last Duel is literally using a device
Rashomon.
that from Rashomon that Akira Kurosawa came up with in 1940. If you've never seen Rashomon, Rashomon is a story of a woman gets raped. And the story, they're trying to investigate what happens, and it comes from three. It was the first film to have ever done that it came from three different perspectives to show the same thing to the audience. And so many filmmakers have adopted that as a way to look at it. I mean, I can't even give you the names of, because it's happened so many times, of like, oh, that's Rashomon. So that's all film is, man. I tell you every week on the show, film is a director's medium. If you like a film director, you will tend to like a lot of the films that director does, or at least give that filmmaker a benefit of a doubt. And film, you got to watch classic films, AKA older films, in order to really get an appreciation for what you're watching, because none of it's new. All right. So that concludes our special today on covering horror films. Charles, as always, is always a pleasure, man, to sit down and share with you. We would normally get Wilson on, but the problem is Wilson couldn't go earlier than 1970. We'd be stuck with him doing Feedback City and telling us all of these other films that he thought were horrible. And I'm clowning you, Wilson, because if you were here, you could defend yourself. But since you are not, you cannot. You can't. So I would say this weekend, of all the films, pick one of these movies you talked about, Charles, which you think is absolutely the one that they should watch this weekend.
His House.
Oh,
His House.
That's a good one. And mine's as easy as Crazy as Hell. If you can find Crazy as Hell anywhere, man. And Charles, I'm talking to you too. You should watch that and call me and let me know. Like, Tim, you tripping. That movie wasn't scary. I'm like, okay. It was scary to me.
I'm gonna look for it.
All right, man. So we are out, man. We'll see you guys on the other side. Enjoy your holiday weekend. And also check on our site because they have reviews. Charles, I'm assuming you got some reviews this weekend. I know I got several that are going up.
I got a few. Yes.
All right. Okay. So we'll see you guys on the other side.
We never got to talk about The Harder They Fall.
Is that in theaters this weekend? See, because again, Netflix is doing something strange where they're putting them in to qualify them in theaters for, for your consideration, but then they're going to stream them. So I've been saving my reviews for when they stream for the Netflix audience versus the people who are going to see them in theaters. So
well, it did come out in the theaters last week, but it starts streaming next week.
Next week, right?
Yes.
And then, so it streams next week. And then the week after that, Passing starts to stream. So, okay. So we got time. All right. So we tell you guys every week, please see something good at the movies. We've given you a bunch of different recommendations for your Halloween weekend. Please enjoy. And as I said, we'll see you guys on the other side. You take care, Charles. Thank you, sir, as well. All right. Peace.
Peace.